know what? I've had enough of you repeatedly accusing my guest of misrepresentation, and now you've done it to me twice. You don't get a third chance.
Natasha Housdorff was on LBC with Iain Dale discussing anti-Semitism and being able to openly criticise Israel. Natasha is quickly becoming quite well known for saying a lot but not making any sense. We've seen her on the Piers Morgan show where she was literally shamed, and now Iain does a great job hearing enough of her BS and proceeds to cut the call. Let's take a look.
Individuals who consistently attack Israel, spread falsehoods about the Jewish state. One only has to look at their Twitter history. They are considered, I think properly, not to be conducive to the public good in Israel. Actually, some of the sort of baseless falsehoods about Israel that we just heard from your previous contributor, Azriel Bermond.
Hang on, I have to say, you didn't utter any falsehoods. Don't insult one of your fellow guests. That's really rude.
Well, calling Israel, saying that it is no longer a democracy, or saying that it is not a democracy that can deal with criticism within the country, I'm afraid is baseless. There is great debate all the time, and indeed individuals calling for boycotts against Israel within Israel itself.
So why aren't Labour MPs allowed to do that? I mean, surely if Israel, hang on a second, if Israel believes in freedom of speech, then surely it shouldn't be afraid of some of the arguments that these MPs have put forward, given that people within Israel have put the same arguments forward.
It is difficult to understand where this projection of fear arises from. Israel's statutory framework and its laws since 2017, the country's law of entry, has been very clear. I think this was also referenced by Kemi Badnoch, that Israel is to refuse entry to activists who publicly call for or have committed to participate in a boycott against Israel.
Natasha states it's baseless to say Israel is no longer a democracy, and it's not a democracy that can take criticism. However, Israel's amendment number 28 to the Entry into Israel law for prevention of damage to state of Israel through boycott, passed in 2017, says otherwise. It states, and I quote, prevents entry to individuals who make a public call for boycotting Israel. This is one of many arguments I can bring to show Israel is not a democracy.
And if they were going to Israel to stir up hatred or support Palestinian terrorists or whatever, I would have absolutely no problem with the Israeli state deciding they were not conducive to the public good. But that is not the case here. Now, you are correct when you say that the Foreign Office website gives advice to, and I've got the page up here on my laptop, it gives advice to, it says foreign nationals can legally be refused entry if they've publicly called for a boycott of Israel or Israeli settlements or belong to an organisation which has called for a boycott. So from that point of view, Israel can say, well, we've warned people in the past about this. The Foreign Office website states it. So therefore, fair dues. But no normal democracy behaves in this way, do they? I mean, name another country that does.
It's the United Kingdom.
No, it doesn't.
The leader of the opposition gave you two prominent examples of politicians that were
and I've told you that in one of those cases, the example doesn't really work.
Well, I would disagree, because the nature of the conduct of these two members of parliament, and unfortunately they are not alone in the Labour Party, in targeting Israel, in singling it out for falsehoods and a public smear campaign, falls very much within the confines of not conducive to the public good in Israel, which is exactly what this statute was introduced to cater for. And it is important to understand that they represented something that was untrue to immigration officials when they claimed to be on a parliamentary delegation in Israel. That is information that can be easily checked.
It can be, and they were. The Council for Arab-British Understanding said that the women were part of a parliamentary delegation on a trip organised by them and medical aid for Palestinians.
Iain is absolutely right. A normal democracy, not a pretend one like Israel, allows the people to vote, elect and be critical of the government. The literal meaning of the word democracy means ruled by the people. However, every time they receive some form of negative criticism, all they seem to do is have a little cry about it. Iain asks for another example. Natasha then argues by saying the UK, someone please remind me, she's meant to be a lawyer, right? She talks about the statute was introduced to prevent anyone smearing the reputation of Israel. The only ones who have smeared the reputation is the government of Israel by their actions, their lies and the destruction of not only Gaza but neighbouring countries too.
ask you a question. In that I've been very supportive. I've been very supportive of Israel since October the 7th. But various things that they've done, certainly in the last 6 months, I have called them out on air. I think some of the attacks in Gaza have been totally over the top. I think Benjamin Netanyahu himself has been very culpable for a lot of this. Would that mean that if I decided I wanted to go and present a program from Israel, that I could be refused entry because I've had the temerity to say something that the Israeli government might not like?
That is, I'm afraid, a misrepresentation of what has gone on here.
Do you know what? I've had enough of you repeatedly accusing my guest of misrepresentation, and now you've done it to me twice. You don't get a third chance.
Iain, I have offered over the last 15 months repeatedly to come on to address the concerns that you are raising, and that offer has been refused.
No, it's not. So you've been on my programme before in the studio.
Right. Not to address the issues that you have claimed to have concerns about with respect to Israel's military conduct on the ground in Gaza. Any individual who wishes to properly understand the situation has the ability to do that and engage with experts, those like me that have been on the ground in Gaza in September and have seen these situations with my own eyes. Those repeated offers have been refused, and all I've had in coming on and answering your questions straightforwardly, as I've been invited on to, is being told that I'm in some way being rude because I disagree with your previous guest and with you. I'm very surprised.
You can disagree, but you don't accuse fellow guests of misrepresentation, and you don't accuse the host of the programme of what you have done, because if you do, don't expect to be invited back.
But Iain, the comparison that you have just drawn is not a fair comparison, and it is misrepresentative of what these members of Parliament have done.
Okay, you've done it 3 times now. Goodbye. Dear, oh dear, oh dear.
The moment she is confronted, she suddenly becomes and sounds like the victim. Where have we seen that before? I'm so glad Iain shut down the conversation. Discussions should be had in a reasonable manner with understanding and compassion with what's actually happening on the ground. Conversations like these don't go anywhere, they don't achieve anything, and the purpose of this video was to demonstrate her lack of empathy, and also to demonstrate that conversations like this with people like Natasha should instantly be shut down, and I'm glad Iain did that. Anyway guys, thanks for watching. Support me by liking and subscribing, and I'll see you all on the next video. Peace out.